So I think we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for letting me know that audio and the video are working. So as people trickle in, I'll just go ahead and get started. So thank you for joining us today. We're happy to be back in 2024 with more of these events for you through our program, SBIR Connect. Before I introduce our speakers, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about Connect, our program and our partnership for those of you who are new. So Connect is a San Diego nonprofit. We aim to help entrepreneurs scale through our different programs. Our programs provide different resources, such as access to mentors and education. We have different sets of workshops like this one, or our Capital Insight series, as well as different sets of office hours to help you. Office hours, we have legal, IT, as well as SBIR office hours. For any questions regarding those, please visit our website at connect.org. Then a little reminder on Connect as well. Our very own annual capital program, Cool Companies, is accepting applications until February 9th. This program is designed to match San Diego's top performing tech and life science startups, or the coolest companies, with quality venture capital. So for any questions, once again, visit our website or email us at team@connect.org. Now for our partnership. So SBIR Connect is a Connect program, but it was created through our partnership with NAVWAR Pacific under NAVWAR. I know it's a lot of acronyms. NAVWAR is the Naval Information Warfare Systems Command, and it is one of the Navy System Commands, or SYSCOMs. It is through this partnership that we hope to bring more awareness to the SBIR and STTR program, as well as help foster relationships between government and industry and academia. So a reminder on that one, there's a couple of SBIR deadlines approaching. The first is the SBIR STTR 24.1/A cycle. That's closing on February 7th. So you can check out the Navy topics at navysbir.com or see all of the DoD topics at dodsbir.sttr.mil. I'll drop the links on the chat. There's also the 24.4 Direct to Phase 2 that was just pre-released on January 17th. That's going to open for proposals on February 1st and close March 5th. That can also be found at navysbir.com. So with that, for our speakers today, we're very excited to have the director of the Office of Small Business Programs at NAVWAR, Kim Rady. She's here with us today, so thank you so much. And we also have our series regular, Shadia Soom, who serves as the SBIR STTR program manager at NAVWAR. So thank you both so much for being here with us today. So just one last thing before we get started. We're going to reserve the questions for the very end for the Q&A portion of the webinar, but feel free to put them in the chat as the presentations go on. So with that, Kim, thank you so much for being here. Let's get started.
Thank you so much. I don't see my camera working. There I go. It's because the owl didn't sense me yet. Good afternoon. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk to some small businesses that may not know about the Office of Small Business Programs at NAVWAR. So I'm Kim Rady. I'm the director of the Office of Small Business, and I'd like to just go through kind of what we do and what some of our services are. I'll go through some highlights that are held on our website, some upcoming opportunities. I'm going to talk about how we're rated based on our targets and show you what our performance is for obligations towards small business, and some of our efforts that we are undergoing right now to improve our small business performance and maximize opportunities for small businesses. So first of all, this slide shows our organization. And I think the important thing I'd like to point out is that we are a direct report to our commander and the ED. So while we work with contracting and the requirements holders, the importance of ensuring that we're advocating for small businesses is that we have direct report to our leadership. There's our vision and mission. I won't read that to you, but basically our mission is to ensure that we are finding acquisition opportunities where small businesses can support our mission. Some of the things that we make sure we do are just to create important relationships across these different stakeholders. So we talk to leadership across NAVWAR, as well as the PEOs, which are our requirements holders, as well as you, our industry partners, across the contracting office shop, as well as any regional councils that can also help you. We provide advice to you and also our other internal stakeholders. We help write policy that will assist small businesses. We provide reporting, advocacy. We ensure our command is complying. We specifically help with market research to make sure our contracting shop knows where there are small businesses that can provide value and try to make those small business set-asides where appropriate. And then we provide training as well. So some of the highlights. One of the things I've been giving out to our small business industry is that we've updated our website. So if you've already gone to our website, it was kind of outdated. We've refreshed it. So inviting people to visit it, and we'll be providing some additional updates as well. One of the most important things I believe on that website is something that we call the LRAE, the Long Range Acquisition Estimate. It's a very large spreadsheet. If you go to that website, you can check out the LRAE, pull up a spreadsheet, it's an Excel spreadsheet, and you can see all of the future opportunities that are listed, contract opportunities we've asked for up to 3 years out. And you can sort that by NAICS code, so you know whatever your company, what NAICS you provide, or by a requirements holder if you're looking for something for C4I, Vice, MLB. And this LRAE actually covers 3 different UX. So we're headquarters. We also have 2 other organizations under us, which are what's NIWC, PAC, and LANT. So there are different UX and different contracting shops, but this LRAE covers all of what we call one NAVWAR. You'll also see a fact sheet there. There's a PDF fact sheet. Unfortunately, it should be embedded in the website, but if you need points of contact, my email, my team's email, which is Brody and Caleb, the deputies, as well as the small business specialists on both of our S3s, they're there too. And then there's a bit of information about the requirements holders and what we do. There's upcoming events that you can become a part of. And then also we provide our historical goals and performances. And you can see that our small business advocates, which each of the requirements offices hold, their emails are provided as well. So if you went to the LRAE, I won't spend a lot of time going through these opportunities. I did this at the last roundtable we had, where we have folks that are kind of keyed into doing business with us. But if you look at that LRAE, you would find coming up some interesting things that folks, for instance, that provide services in the NAICS code 541330. There's RFPs that's expected sometime in FY25 Q1. It's an engineering systems and security MBSE, and we're anticipating that be a small business set aside. The important thing that I try to make everyone understand is that hasn't been determined. We don't determine officially if something is limited just to only small businesses to help them compete until after the market research is complete. The market research is done by what we call an RFI. We post that RFI to either our Seaport site or our e-commerce site, and we wait for the small businesses to provide input about their capabilities, and then that decision is made based on that RFI and that market research. So I try to make sure that small businesses understand how important it is to respond to these RFIs. If you're interested in any more of those specifics, you can email my office and we can have a meeting, and I can help train if you're not sure about how to use e-commerce or Seaport. Those are some of the training sessions I can have with you to assist you in being able to identify opportunities that will help you. So there's some more opportunities. I highlighted a couple RFIs that are coming up. One is in support of PMW 770, and the other is our headquarters 5.0 engineering and cyber security support. These are closing soon, so we were kind of like amplifying, please, if you're interested or capable in that requirement, to respond to that RFI if possible. This is the targets that NAVWAR is graded on for their small business participation. The one you're looking at is all of FY23. So we have 5 small business goals, overall small business, and then 4 socioeconomic categories. So, and these are all based on obligations to any one of those types of businesses over the overall dollars that we obligate. So you can see it at the top of the screen. NAVWAR obligated $7.1 billion in FY23, and we obligated $2.2 billion to small businesses. We didn't reach our goals in 3 of the 5 areas, so we have some work to do. We came close, but we're trying to. Our leadership is really engaged and focusing on how we can meet our goals for FY24. This chart is that same chart except for FY24 until 9 January. So far, we're doing a bit better. We're meeting 3 of our 5 goals, but we've got a lot of time until the end of the fiscal year. So we have quite a few efforts that we're focusing on. Our hub zone category historically has been very hard to meet. So our executive director put out a hub zone challenge starting in FY23 just to make sure the requirements offices were aware of the capabilities of some of the hub zone companies. So he said, we find one of our requirements that you can set aside as a hub zone, and I'll give you some extra seed money to go towards that contract. And so we awarded our first hub zone challenge at headquarters for FY23. Which resulted in a contract from PMW 150 to a hub zone. And we just announced the winner for FY24, and it went to PEOMLB. And so they will be doing a hub zone set aside on one of their requirements. The other effort that we are undergoing in our policy to make sure that we are maximizing small business opportunities is in market research. We are revising the RFI templates that our contracting officers use to make it less burdensome for small businesses to respond to, and as well, like doing some training to make sure that the program offices understand how to better engage with small businesses to ensure that we really understand the amount of small businesses that are capable, rather than cutting them off on just what's in writing. If they have a question, we're trying to make sure we are changing the culture so that they can pick up the phone and call the small businesses and ask questions. So that was one of the other efforts we have. The other thing that's pretty big here is a disaggregation policy. So the Secretary of the Navy was a small business owner, and he's very focused on these stats. And that's one of the reasons I think all of the Navy commands are very focused on increasing small business opportunities, mostly because there's been a reduction in the defense industry base. So we really need to focus on how to get new entrants into our industry. So he put out a memo and wants to make sure that each command is what he's termed disaggregation. It's not a new thing. It's in the FAR. It's like FAR 7103U. I think I have it on future slides. I can go ahead and go forward. Yeah, there we go. FAR 7103U. But he knows the commands weren't doing the best job at that. So he named a small business champion, which is a senior executive service member, to oversee, to make sure that we're really focusing on shaping our requirements and breaking up the real large ones if possible, so that small businesses can compete a little better. And so our policy from the small business offices out to our requirements offices require that everybody do a review. If it's something over the small business threshold, to look and answer questions about how they might be able to break it apart so that we can provide more opportunities for our small businesses. And that's all I have. I can answer lots of questions or provide more input if you're interested. If you can email me, we can set up a capabilities briefing or a session where I can help train on how to use some of these tools. That's all I have.
Thank you, Kim. That's extremely helpful. Kim, if you wouldn't mind stop sharing. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. For those of you who are new to the government world and you're just kind of learning about the Navy, I'm sure some of those words and acronyms are a little difficult. So Shadi, who will be presenting next, alongside our partnership with Connect, we've created a set of tutorial videos that are fairly short, some of them short 2 minutes, but we do have a Navy overview one, which kind of breaks down the structure of the Navy so you can kind of understand a little bit more about what PEOs are, as well as PMWs, which are program executive offices. So I can also put the link, or we can send it to you. At the end, we'll be sending a recording of this video as well as the presentations by both of our speakers, which thank you so much for sharing those. So I'll make sure that those links are there for you as well as you kind of embark on this journey. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and present Shadi as Zoom. I'm going to mute myself and stop my video while I bring up his slides, but Shadi, please take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Gretel. And thanks, Kim, for also joining us today. So in talks with Gretel about what we wanted this workshop to be focused, at least on the SBIR part, we thought it might be best just to provide a simple one-on-one. And we do have a slide here that is dedicated. If you saw some of the news that was out regarding our program, we did get recently reauthorized, and there are a couple changes that were introduced. And I do have a slide that talks about that right here. If we go to the next slide, so this is actually, that's me. And so I manage the SBIR portfolio for the Naval Information Warfare Systems Command. We are one of 8 different Navy entities that has our own SBIR funding line, our own set of requirements, our own set of topics that you as a small business would probably see from one of us. I do have a slide that kind of shows the different Navy entities, but that is me. Next slide, please. And sorry, just a helpful hint. My name is pronounced Shadi, like daddy. It's super corny, but I do get quite a bit of folks that have been wondering how to pronounce my name. For those that are absolutely brand new to the program, Small Business Innovation Research, or SBIR, provides an initial set of funding to help kickstart research and development by small businesses. The program is administered by the Small Business Administration. They run it, they set the policy for us to execute it. But the actual projects that do get funded both benefit the small business to help build their portfolio, but it also helps address government needs. So every single one of the topics that you see posted underneath our program has a dual purpose effect to it. They help our needs specifically, and when I say that, I mean Navy, and then if you see any topics from NAVWAR, it's NAVWAR's needs. But then also they're meant for you as a small business, if you do get selected for an award, to take that and build your portfolio and commercialize it and find other government customers or even a commercial entity that would be interested in your product too. So it's not very pigeonholed to the Navy specific or that your only customer is going to be government. The difference between SBIR and SETR comes down to partnering. Transparent to the government. A small business can subcontract their work. And we usually see cases like that, but they can subcontract their work to like a research institution or a large business under SBIR. But for STTR, it is a requirement that a small business partners up and subcontracts a portion of the work to a research institution like a university. Specifically under STTR, a small business must do at least 40% of the work, and the research institution must do at least 30% of the work. So it's optional to partner under SBIR, but it is a requirement for a small business to partner up with a research institution under SCTR. And usually the difference comes down like how we post a topic under whichever one of these programs is if we're submitting or publishing a topic that we feel like has a benefit of a university partner, if it's very early research and development, we would push it under the SCTR program vice the SBIR program. Both of these programs are competitive three-phase programs. We don't give the funding all at once. It's actually in a gated phased system, which I have in another slide. But the key thing here is it is competitive. And we also, this is a very recurrent theme in the videos that Gretel mentioned, but it is in our minds to make it always a fair game, if you will. So there's no preferential treatments to specific small businesses for them to do specific work. Whenever we post a topic, the intention is that we allow anybody or any specific small business to participate and bid and submit a proposal against. Next slide, please. This shows who's eligible to participate. We do have a lot more eligibility requirements listed on one of our resources, which I believe I should have at the end, or that we could post in the chat, navysbir.com. But this is a summary of, if you are a small business, how would you qualify, or if you are qualified to participate in the SBIR or SCTR program. You have to be for-profit, owned and operated in the United States, and have 500 or less employees. The work must also be performed in the United States, and the work must be research and development focused. What we mean by the very last bullet is the program is not designed to just buy something off the shelf. So if you have a very mature product that was never funded by the SBIR program, this isn't a program for us to just buy it off of you or do like a procurement. It's really meant for us to invest in a small business that's willing to develop something brand new, a new technology or a new capability that we would later adopt. Next slide, please. This shows the different incentives from the government side and the small business side, why you would want to participate in the program. For us as a government, it's a congressionally mandated program with a specific allocation. So it's almost like a funding that's already afforded to us, but it allows us to think ahead and invest our projects for those initiatives that we see are realized in the 5 to 7 year time frame. So we do like this kind of program for some of the capability needs that we're looking for in the mid and the long term forecast. Because it is competitive, it does allow us as the government to survey various different companies and what you have to offer. And then another thing as part of the program is anytime you've been awarded an SBIR award, any follow-on awards after the second phase of the program, which I'll talk about, are non-competitive. So that is a huge thing for us in the government, because for us to justify a sole source contract, it is quite a bit of work. But underneath the program guidelines, because it goes through a competitive process, any follow-on awards can be sole source with very few, with minimal documentation as such. On the small business side, we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, that it builds credibility of your company. Fun fact, I guess, to share with everyone, if you've heard of the companies Qualcomm, of course, and 23andMe, both of them got their starts through the SBIR program. So that's something that is a great example to show that some major names that we know of got their start using this program. Another benefit that I have a dedicated slide to talk about is our data rights. As a small business, once you've received an SBIR or SCTR award, you do retain certain intellectual property rights for a length of 20 years. Then we'll talk about what we can and cannot do as the government and what you as a small business are afforded. And similar to the government's incentive for a small business, it's always, I would assume, a great thing to have any sole source award as a follow-on. So that's also a shared incentive across both, or between both government and small business. Next slide, please. This shows all the different participating agencies that engage in this program. Those with a circle dot at the bottom right are those that participate in STTR. Department of Defense is where Navy falls under. So NAVWAR is underneath Navy, which is under DoD. But you can see that there are so many other different opportunities with different realms on what they're looking for across the board. So just because if something doesn't match up with one of our topics to what you as a small business perform or engage with. Like we do get a lot of like health focused topics, especially here within the San Diego arena. That doesn't necessarily exclude you from the program. It just means that there might be a different customer for you. And we usually refer people to, like, especially with some of the Department of Health and Human Services, that's another opportunity for you to check out. If you'd like to see some of the topics that other agencies are doing outside of DoD, I'd recommend either going to their specific SBIR website, or you could go to the all-encompassing SBIR.gov, which does show all the different topics and especially what their timelines to submit a proposal to. Next slide, please. So I talked about this in the previous slide. Underneath Department of Navy, we have 8 different entities that participate in SBIR. We each have our own area of responsibility. For NAVWAR, we do focus on information dominance capabilities in the cyber domain. So anything related to that, that is what our focus is. But as you can probably see or infer from some of the names of our other sister commands, each one has their own different focus. Like anything dealing with facilities might be under NAVFAC, or supply chain management under NAVSUP, aircrafts under NAVAIR, or our ships, NAVSEA. So it just depends and varies. You'll get to see each one of, underneath any one of our topics, you'll see which of the associated 8 is associated with that specific topic. So that can help formulate an idea or give you some context on where that product or technology will be landing on. We do have a hyperlink. Oh, sorry. We do have a hyperlink at the very bottom that if you'd like to reach any one of us, you can. And when I say us, I mean myself at NAVWAR and my counterparts as SBIR program managers. We transparently share our email addresses, or I guess group email addresses, with folks that would like to get some more clarification, or if you are fully engaged in the program at one of our commands, if you'd like to get a hold of us, that's a great way of doing so as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. For those that are interested in how the program is funded, we do have, it's a tax on our own funding. So every year it varies on what and how much our budget is. So it's unpredictable, but it depends on how much research and development dollars essentially that we have at the command, and it's a tax on those dollars. So for SBIR, it's a 3.2% tax, and for SCTR, I think it's like, did I put it on here? It's like a 0.87, I think, percent. I know it gets updated, and usually it increases by 0.1% every year. Next slide, please. Okay, so how this all starts is the command posts topics, but we do so through Navy and through DoD. So we don't have a specific Navy like announcement for topics. It's all under Department of Defense. There is a specific website. It's the second bullet here if you'd like to take a look at it, but it shows all of the Department of Defense topics that are released at specific intervals throughout the year. We push out these announcements where we actually detail a list of topics that each and every one of our commands are interested in. So I believe this past cycle that Gretel alluded to, I believe we had 188 topics, if I'm not mistaken, but that's across Department of Defense. There is an ability on that same hyperlink that you can like actually go in and type in a couple of keywords to narrow down that set, unless you'd love to read every single one of the topics that DoD is interested in. But our topics are very detailed, especially within Navy, of what we're looking for. So I'd recommend definitely taking a look at what we've described and what are some of the problems that we are looking for small businesses to address. As the second bullet noted, we do post topics at least 3 times a year. April, August, and November are the notional kind of months where we actually do post topics. I will say we also included a rolling topic submission under our part, where at any point in time we can post a topic and release it outside of the 3 topic cycles. So be aware of that. The best thing about keeping up with our topics and our releases is to submit to the mailing list that the DoD website does have. And then Gretel also talked about the SBIR Connect homepage, and I know they post also regular announcements there as well that you could be aware of. Once we actually post an announcement that has the topics that you could bid as a small business, we conduct evaluations on the proposals that are received within 90 days. And then an additional 90 days is afforded to us to create the awards for those that we select for award on those topics. Next slide, please. When we do post a topic, there are a couple dates that you should be aware of. The first is the pre-release date. It's the first time you will ever see our topic, and that kickstarts a 30-day period where you as a small business can intimately talk to one of our topic authors and through phone or email to get additional clarification with the topic. We do, of course, keep our topics very detailed, so you should have sufficient information in there. But one of the best advice we give to small businesses that are interested is to utilize that first 30-day period in case you'd like to talk or discuss your capability set with the topic author and see if it's a match to the topic that they're looking for. Usually that saves time. If it's not a hit or a mark, that does give a small business enough information whether or not they should participate in that particular or submit a proposal to that particular topic. After that 30-day period, it kickstarts the open period where companies can still ask questions, but their questions are posted publicly and our topic authors will respond to them publicly as well. That is also a period in time where you as a small business can submit your proposal. So do take advantage of the day between pre-release and open, because that's a period in time where you can have an intimate and private discussion with our topic authors via phone or email. Next slide, please. So we talked about that SBIR and SCTR has 3 different phases. So when we post a topic publicly, it are traditional topics. We do issue multiple awards for the first phase, which we call phase 1. As you see by the dollar amount, it's not something that we expect a small business to develop a product or a capability or a prototype of sorts. It's a phase in the program where we give funding to one or more small businesses to prove to us that their solution meets the topic that we've posted. So it's between 140,000 to 240,000, and it's between 6 to 12 months. And we do award multiple awards. I would say typically for every topic, it's between 2 to 4 awards. We cannot disclose to you how many proposals or what we expect, the number of proposals we receive per topic. It's again up in the air on what that is, but usually we do award 2 to 4 phase 1 awards per topic. Once we receive all of the products from phase 1, which is basically a final report that shows the government that their solution meets the topic at hand, we then award only one phase 2 award to take that feasibility study that a particular phase 1 awardee has completed and develop a full-fledged prototype. And as you can see by the dollar amount, it is a significant amount. That's why out of the phase 1 awardees, only one is provided due to the amount of funding, and we can't fund them all to develop a full-fledged solution. So if you're a small business and you've been awarded a phase 1, it's that opportunity that you are provided to showcase what you can do so that you can get selected for phase 2 and actually develop the product. At the very end of phase 2, it should give the government program, basically NAVWAR, enough information to create a sole source contract to phase 3, and which has an immense amount of flexibility, as you can see here. But essentially, the first 2 phases of the program are funded by the program itself. Phase 3, even though it's a state of the program, it's a state where it's only funded by non-SBIR and non-SHER funding. So think of phase 3 as like your finish line. It's the point in time where you've proven to the government that you can develop a product in response to the topic that they posted publicly. And this is the stage where the government can further invest outside of the program to continue using or purchase your product. Next slide, please. There are other ways to be a part of this process without starting at phase 1, and I'll talk about those 2 opportunities in the next slide. The first one is called Direct to Phase 2, and I will be on slide 13. Direct to Phase 2 is similar to us posting a topic publicly, but instead the companies that do get awarded go directly to phase 2, as the name implied. However, any proposals that we do receive in response to a topic that we deem as direct to phase 2 has to have already completed phase 1 type work. So if you are, let's suppose we do submit, NAVWAR does submit a direct to phase 2 topic, and you are a small business, you've had to perform some work in that arena outside of the program that you could prove to us that you have done, so that you can go directly to a prototype development. We do have specific instructions on what those are because, of course, it's different for every single type of topic. We did have one that we closed, a direct to phase 2 topic that we closed the last cycle that I could also include in the chat to kind of see what that flavor looks like. But it shortens the timeline for us to kickstart a prototype development with a particular small business. Next slide, please. This is a really great slide for those that have been awarded an SBIR or SHER award in the past. If you do have an award, there's always an opportunity for you to find a different customer, and especially under the SBIR arena. So anytime that you've been awarded a phase 1 or a phase 2 award, it doesn't have to be with the Navy and it doesn't have to be with a NAVWAR. But NAVWAR and any other agency can pick it up for a second phase 2 or a first phase 2 if it's a phase 1 award. But we can always make a phase 2 award sole source to you as a company if you've been awarded a prior SBIR or an SCTR award. And that comes in real handy. There are so many, I always ask our topic authors that there can be an award that has been done that meets the topic that they're looking for. And if there is one that's out there, we can always do a direct to, or I guess I should say a phase 2, which we call a reach back or a subsequent phase 2 for us to pick that up and fund directly to that small business without competition. Again, because that specific company has already competed in the program and received a phase 1 or a phase 2, any follow-on awards can be sole source. So if you, for example, have a cybersecurity solution that you were funded through Department of Homeland Security, one of the agencies that does participate in this program, and let's say you were awarded a phase 1 and then you were later awarded a phase 2 through them, NAVWAR that has probably a similar capability that we're looking for can pick it up for a second phase 2. And this is an opportunity that probably accounts for about 60% of our portfolio, because for us at NAVWAR, because the cyber domain is so fast paced, it makes more sense for us to pick up an existing or a previous selected award than it does to submit a topic. That doesn't necessarily mean we don't submit topics or publish them, but it's still a wonderful opportunity if you have something in your portfolio that you can use to us. If you, and I do have a slide kind of like on strategies, but if you have a list of SBIR awards, take note of that and maybe like create a summary of what those awards are and use that as a platform for when you do engage with any government customers, especially us, because we can see if there is some relevance to what we're doing and we can pick it up. Next slide, please. Data rights. I could speak for another hour on data rights, but this is essentially what summarizes the government can use the products that are developed but we cannot essentially give the work products that you develop under an SBIR SETR award to any non-government entity. The same goes for software. We can't put your software that you developed on non-government systems. So this is a really important thing to participate in the program, because as a small business, it reduces certain fears that another company may take your work product. So we have very specific guidelines. We are bound by these data rights. For us to negotiate you out of the rights would be considered illegal. So we do take this to heart. And it's another, again, incentive for a small business to use this program. Next slide, please. So the program got reauthorized last year. I think it was, time flies so much when you primarily work from home, but we did recently get reauthorized, let's put it this way, for an additional 3 years. So I believe next year will be our marker. There are certain things that, because of the program being reauthorized, there are certain introductions or changes that we've included. And this is not we as a Navy, it is all of the agencies that you saw in one of the slides that shows the 11. So it's something that SBA has put forward. One of the big things that, as a small business, when you do submit a proposal to one of our broad agency announcements, is disclosures, specifically if you have any foreign investments or any foreign affiliations or relationships to foreign countries. Think of it as an assertion statement that is required of you if you are a small business that are participating in it. But all those guidelines are already laid out. And the last thing that we also introduced, that if you've participated in the Air Force, they do something very similar, is what we call an open topic. And I have my own thoughts about this. Air Force's open topic, if you participated in it before, is a great way for a small business to get their foot in the door. But it still imposes quite a bit of a challenge for them to seek out a government customer later in the phase structure of the program. If I'm not mistaken, how Air Force does its open topics is, in order to receive a phase 2, you have to accompany your proposal with a letter of endorsement or a letter of interest from a government customer. Navy doesn't believe in that. We believe that every company should have a fair and open chance to submit to one of our topics, whether you are brand new and you're just starting out, or you're a well-versed SBIR awardee that has worked with the government in the past. Both are afforded the same opportunities to submit to our topics. If you've taken a look, last year we did do an open topic, and this is part of the reauthorization is for us to start doing that every single year. But our open topics within the Navy still, people do say it's not really open. I would say my rebuttal against that argument is they're not open because we want to make sure that you, as the small business, do get a customer from the very beginning. We still broadly describe our topics, what we call like focus areas, where it's not this full-fledged description, a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. We're kind of looking for a general paragraph on what we're looking for. We try to make it as general as possible to invite as many small businesses. But again, it's not where anybody can submit, because we want to make sure that you at least have a customer at the end of the day, which I assume is the goal if you're participating in this program. So we are still doing open topics. We do have one upcoming this calendar year that I would also be aware of, take note of. And the best way to find out through different resources is NavySBIR.com, the DoD SBIR website, which we included in here as well, and then SBIR Connect's webpage. I'm sure we'll have an announcement when that time does come. Next slide. I think is my last slide, are some strategies that we have included. The one thing we also do get asked quite a bit is if small businesses can suggest topics to us. You can certainly have a discussion with one of our topic authors, but for us to accept a topic from a small business or work with a small business for a topic would kind of defeat the fair and open game that I proclaimed earlier on. So you're welcome to give us ideas, but I think that kind of discussion stops there. For the second bullet, we kind of talked about that, where if you do have any past awards, do keep note of those and do keep that in your repertoire ready to go if you have a discussion with one of our government POCs. We do have plenty of information of what NAVWAR does on the public-facing webpage. It's an expansion of what Kim was talking about, so I would definitely check out our public webpage to kind of get a feel for it. And Gretel also mentioned that the SBIR Connect webpage does have some information related to ourself and our sister commands as well. And then last but not least, if one of the big main requirements that we get asked, it's like a black or white situation, is to get registered under sam.gov in order to submit a proposal. So if you have not registered there, I would recommend that as your first step, along with checking out our resources available to you. That being said, I will stop and hand it over back to Gretel.
Thank you, Shadi. That was super informative. I hope everyone, I think it was pretty clear. I know a couple of our registrants are SBIR pros, but the reauthorization, data rights, all of that is very important. And on the data rights portion of it, we are going to have a workshop next month with another guest speaker, but Shadi's also going to go ahead and cover more on the data rights part of SBIRs. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started on some of the questions that were submitted. We have some that were submitted ahead of time, and then we have two that are submitted right here. So one of them, and I'll kind of encourage Shadi and Kim whenever you're ready to come back on video. So one of the questions is they already have a product. It's a new concept. There is no current RFP that they've been able to find for car-sized computers. And I'll kind of skip a little bit of that, but how can they best connect to find the right people to work with at NAVWAR?
Oh, sorry, I'm also reading the question as well. So, okay, so I would say, at least for my sector, under SBIR, my advice is to if there's no current RFP, and I assume that you might have checked this, but just in case you haven't, I would check out sbir.gov. And you can do a keyword search on specifically what I'm sure card-sized computers is a novel concept, but it might be a topic might be there if it's not Navy specific that you could check out and see if there's a government customer out there first. Aside from that, this kind of goes back to for SBIR specifically, if you do have a product that's already out there, we can't use the program to necessarily purchase it. Okay, that's on my end.
Thank you, Shadi. I usually hand people over to Shadi when it's something innovative like that and they can't find a requirement, because from my office's perspective, we really are trying to make sure that the opportunities that we're already advertising are known to small businesses and made available to them as much as possible. But one thing that I would say is that if you believe that there is an overall program that might use your product, not specifically the government buying your product directly, but a program, a larger program that could utilize your product, then you might want to look on the LRA to see some of the overarching large contracts, large D-type contracts, and then you can contact me on how to find out, how to track who it is that is priming that. So you might want to reach out to a prime contractor for opportunities to sub. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Kim. And I think another answer, another point to just make, the Navy's not the only agency that participates in SBIR or that has R&D programs. So I think based on the specific product that you mentioned, you might want to look at some of the other DoD agencies that participate. Shadi had that great slide with all of the ones that have their own budget. So if you can't find a customer with the Navy, it might be good to look at some of the other ones, as well as some of the other topics they've submitted. And this kind of goes also into the question regarding, I'm going to go ahead and just say life sciences. So the organization is researching the feasibility of human evolution So it is more biological, and we did get a couple questions regarding biomanufacturing as well. So I'll go ahead and put it to both of you as well, but is the Navy interested on more life sci bio topics or technology? I'm going to go ahead and just reemphasize that there is 11 federal agencies that participate in SBIR, and there is a couple of those that specifically support life sciences. So if the Navy does not have a topic that applies to you, I would check into the NIH and the NSF. I think those are two of the biggest ones, and they have great programs. They're very different from the Navy. They also do they don't do contracts, they do grants. So it might be of interest for you to check them out. We did have a webinar with them last year, I believe, and we have a recording of that as well on our Vimeo account. But I'll go ahead and open it up to Shadi and Kim as well. See if you have anything.
I know ONR does post. ONR is one of the 8 that do some biotechnology, but it's fairly limited. And Gretel said it perfectly. If anything within the health industry or life sciences, I would imagine would be either National Science Foundation or NIH. Yeah.
Yeah. Also across DoD, if there happens to be anything, I think there's a DHS, Defense Health Agency. In any case, that LRA that is formatted by NAICS code and procurement is required across all of the Navy organizations anyway. So you can, if you know what that specific NAICS code is, I'm not sure if you understand NAICS, I'd be happy to, if you call me and you don't understand what a NAICS code is, but if you really would help to find your product service code and your NAICS code, especially the NAICS code for the LRA, and you can filter any one of the LRAs across any of those buying commands to see if that helps in your search.
Thank you, Kim and Shadi. I'm going to ask this question. I think this one, Kim, maybe. Does the company need to be certified as a small business, or is a self-certified application good enough?
Each of the socioeconomic categories are different, but the SBA site can tell you specifically on certification process. It used to be that SDVOSB, you could self-certify. I think that's changed recently. I think they're almost all certified by the SBA, but if you have any questions on who to contact about specific questions, you can either come to me or go to the SBA site, because it gives the specific directions on how to certify for any one of those categories.
Yeah, and if you go ahead and on sam.gov, when you register your organization, it does kind of populate those certifications. Not all of them are required. It just kind of depends on what you're responding to, what RFP and what program you're responding to, but it does kind of walk you through it. One of the first questions we got, and I believe, I'm hoping I'm answered this one correctly or asking it correctly, but it's, are phase 1 award submissions available to review? And I'm assuming this means our submissions available for everyone to see. And if not, please let me know.
Well, so like the awards, we do have public record of what we have awarded phase 1s. That's on SBIR.gov. There's a bar that has the word reports, and underneath that says award data. And that's exactly where you can check out all phase 1 awards that have been submitted, or sorry, not submitted, have been awarded. But we don't publicize a company's proposal if they've submitted it to phase 1.
Yeah, and I think if you go to SBIR.gov, and Shadi was talking about this earlier, and you can do a keyword search for your technology, and you can see any and all SBIR awards that have been awarded based on that keyword search across all of the agencies. And it does let you know the abstract of that project, as well as who it was awarded to, when, and the amount of the award as well. Okay, this one, if the technology has already received a patent, will it be considered technically feasible enough to apply for a phase 2 funding, which is a prototype funding? And I think this is an SBIR question as well.
It's not an automatic certification. You still have to provide the necessary documentation to prove that the solution is feasible. I almost think a patent comes in without any knowledge of what our topics are. So I think it does prove that it's developed, but you still have to provide the documentation of how that solution that has been patented addresses our topic. I don't think that was ever included because no one knows the knowledge of our topics until they come around. So yes, sort of is my answer.
Yeah, and I think that that's more for direct to phase twos. And so if you right now there's one active, so you can actually read the full broad agency announcement on what is needed in order for that, which is a specific technology readiness level. And Chatty already mentioned earlier that that technology must have been not solely funded by SBIR as well. So I think that, okay, there's a couple more and there's a ton that we received online. So I'm going to go ahead and ask one of the ones that we received often, which is part 2. So 1 is how to best find out about the Navy's needs, and 2, how to identify those opportunities across the Navy. And I'll open it up to both.
I can go ahead and start. So I introduced one, the LRAY. It's not always completely accurate. We're still working. That is actually generated from our internal acquisition database. More importantly, the 2 websites that are on the link that I gave you is e-commerce. So that's NAVWAR's site that actually posts upcoming opportunities, RFIs, and RFPs. So that's where you actually can go and register for any one of those opportunities and register as an interested bidder. And that's how you can kind of see who the primes are if you want to try to pair and propose as a team or propose as a prime and what's available there. Then for services, it's Seaport. So that link is also under my small business website. So if it's a services, which is that NAICS code 541330, all of those opportunities are separate because we use Seaport for the majority of our services contracts. So the LRAY, e-commerce, and Seaport.
Thank you, Kim. And I think Shadi's already kind of mentioned it, but go ahead, Shadi.
DoD SBIR website contains the Navy topics on what we're looking for, so that's the best resource.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead. I know we don't have a chat button right now, but I'll go ahead that at the end when we send our thank you emails to all the people that registered and send the link to this recording as well as the presentations, that we include all of the links that we mentioned on this chat. We have 2 minutes left. So one of the things that I want to do is, 1, thank our speakers so much for being here today, but for also being so open about how you can reach out to them. I think Kim mentioned a couple of times you can call her and ask her questions and also email her and her team. So we'll also make sure that in that email we include her team's email and Shadi's SBIR team email as well with any additional questions that you guys may have. The other things, just once again to note, there is deadlines for all of the SBIR topics that are out. So pay attention to that. You can register at dodsbirsdtr.com as well for the newsletter. But I think the best way to do it is to look at the dates ahead of time and just put them in your calendar. And I think with Kim's, she just gave you 3 resources to look out for. So I would make sure to go into that and also take note of those deadlines as well. So you have enough time to ask questions, not just to Kim and Shadi, but whoever the lead is on those topics and RFPs as well. So with that, I want to thank you very much, not just to our speakers, for everyone that showed up today. If there's any, I know there's leftover questions, you can feel free to email me or our team@connect.org email. If you also go to navwarsibir.com, we have our contact form, and that goes straight to my inbox and Shadi's inbox as well. And you can email me with any questions for Kim as well, and I'll make sure I forward those. So thank you so much, Kim. Thank you so much, Shadi. I really appreciate you guys being here today. And thank you to all of the attendees as well. So I hope your 2024 is great. Thank you.
Thank you.